It's 1059 The Rock, Nashville's classic rock. It's Battle in the Morning. And all this week, we've been giving away tickets to see Incubus. They're going to be at Bridgestone Arena coming up here on June 25th. Tickets, by the way, still available, Ticketmaster.com, or you could just, keep listening to 1059 The Rock because you could win your way to the show coming up here at 8:10. And joining us on the show today is a guy that you're going to be hearing sing those songs from the band that we just talked about. Brandon Boyd from Incubus joins the show. Brandon, how are you doing, sir?
Yay, I'm good. How are you?
Man, I am doing good, and I'm not gonna lie, I super stoked for this show that's coming to Nashville because as a part of my teenage years, and I'm sure you get this a lot, you were a part of my teenage years. Incubus was, and it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the show, and an honor and a privilege to be talking to you right now.
Right on. The honor is mine. Thank you so much for saying so, man.
Man, I got to talk about it because this is a really cool tour because what you're doing is you're playing Morning View from start to finish. And let's just, dive into it because Morning View wasn't just an album. It was a spiritual shift for so many fans, including myself. Now, when you go back and you look at creating this album in that oceanfront house, can you take us to a specific moment during the process, maybe lyrically, emotionally, or sonically, where you knew this record was going to change everything for the band?
I wish I had that kind of confidence. I didn't know at all. I didn't know what it was going to do. I don't think any of us were really um, in that headspace. Well, I can only speak for myself. I was more in that house in the moment, and it was exciting to be there. We had some wind at our back with the success of the album that came before it. It was called Make Yourself. And so we had that sense of momentum. We were in this really cool kind of like, it was definitely, it's this big, beautiful house in Malibu overlooking the ocean, but the house is sort of like, it was like a crumbling mansion. And we pulled mattresses into the different bedrooms and we lugged all of our gear into the living room. And so it was big and beautiful, but also kind of like crappy and awesome at the same time. And there was just
Uh-huh.
wires everywhere. It looked like it was like we were building like a time machine or something. And maybe we were. I don't know. Maybe that's what albums can be if they work. I did like to answer your question though, I didn't know what it was going to do, if it was going to do anything, but we were having a wonderful time. And I'm really proud of what came out of it. So
Yeah, and especially for all of us fans, very proud of what came from that album because, I mean, you're performing that album, you're doing the tour around that album in its entirety. And, performing that in its entirety brings fans into a very specific moment in the
mm,
evolution of Incubus, right? When
mhm.
you revisit those songs live, do they take on maybe a new meaning for you now, either emotionally or creatively, that wasn't present when you first recorded them?
Most certainly. Yeah. When we're writing and recording these songs, like I said, we didn't know if anyone would even hear them, let alone be singing them at the top of their lungs with us in arenas 24 years later, So when we're having this experience with playing the album from front to back, there's a bunch of the same memories and emotions are coming forward for me singing them, but then there's this sort of new reflection uh, with the audiences kind of like howling them back at us that is totally unanticipated and kind of the coolest thing in the world. It's like one of the most wild experiences. It's hard to describe, but we're incredibly appreciative of it.
And I see where you're coming from about the whole, not being able to describe it because as a from a fan's perspective of like sitting there in the concert and you're
Mm,
just singing along with you guys. And I know for me, there's not very many concerts that I will go to where I take on a whole different level. But when I've seen you
mm.
guys in concert, I close my eyes, and this might sound cliche, but I'm gonna fangirl because we can do this here because I'm talking to you. But I close my eyes, and it's like I'm taken to a different place, and I just close my eyes. I hear you performing, and I'm like, I listened to it on the album. I'm listening to it live.
Mm,
It's just a whole different experience.
hmm I'm doing the same thing for the most part. I'm closing my eyes and tapping into some type of source material, and but then hearing the response, and then I open my eyes and I see the response, and it almost becomes almost uh, like a quasi church in a way. It's really
Mhm.
interesting. But in this church, it's like everybody is it's just communal. We're all there together doing the same thing, the shared purpose, shared emotion. So it's beautiful. And now I'm
Yeah.
really excited to come and do the show in Nashville. Thank you.
It's definitely going to be a fun one for sure. Of course, Bridgestone Arena coming up here June 25th. Still tickets available, Ticketmaster.com, or you keep listening here to 1059 The Rock because it's coming up here at 8:10. We're going to give away the last pair of tickets this week that we have for us. Now, one thing that I have seen in a lot of past interviews, and you've talked about this, that you've mentioned creativity comes in waves. Was
Hmm.
there ever a time maybe in the band's career when you maybe had to force inspiration? And if so, how did you push through without, compromising authenticity?
Um, I can't speak for everybody in the band. I can only speak for myself and my own experience in the band. But no, and it's probably why there are gaps in between our albums. It's not for a lack of creativity, but because I think all of us collectively honor uh, the experience of creativity, and that it comes in waves, and that it's not something that you can just be like, be creative now and go. Some people have that, and that's great for them. I've My experience with creativity, and also being in now a career and a career of creative expression, is that the more I honor it as its own thing, like, oh, it's here. Oh, wow, beautiful. Let's play. Let's make things. Let's do things. And then when it's not there, being like, okay, you're not here right now. I'm gonna go take a bike ride. I'm gonna go for a
Mhm.
surf or something, do something else, and you're not kind of like expecting it to perform for you. um, it creates a healthier relationship to it. And so when it's here, amazing. We're celebrating, we're making things together, all of us. When it's not, you don't take it personally. And it seems to engender a longer, probably more um, functional relationship to creativity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. I mean, again, like you said, if you notice that you're not forcing an album, so there could be, gaps in between those albums because you don't want to
Sure.
just force something, and then people are like, "Oh, that's not the Incubus I was listening to on the last album."
Sure. But the interesting thing, and perhaps the ironic thing, is that when we come back with a new album, it usually sounds pretty vastly different than the one that came before it. And that's because we don't force the creativity. We allow it to sort of morph and change and go where it wants to go. And we're sort of chasing it, as opposed um, to, I don't know, something else. It likes to move, it likes to morph, and do different things. And so, and that's what keeps it fun and interesting, is just like knowing that, yeah, I don't want to write the same song twice. I want to try
Right.
something else. And so sometimes that can be challenging for a listener, but then occasionally a listener will find themselves surprised that they are enjoying something that they didn't expect to.
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about something that people didn't expect. I want to go back to Coachella when you guys showed up with Zed.
Yeah.
What was that like? I mean, I remember watching it the next day and just everybody sharing that video and talking about the performance, which also brought, a new audience to Incubus.
Mm,
Walk me through the moment you stepped out there with Zed on that stage and you just look out there with Coachella.
right. I'd been to Coachella a handful of times, just as a concert goer. And I sort of thought, because the Coachella landscape has changed so dramatically over the years. It used to be more of kind of like an alternative band type of experience. It's become, much more sort of like the center of pop culture, at least on the West Coast. And so I let go of the idea that we might one day play it. And then um, Zed is an old friend of the band, and he just approached us literally days before the performance and was like, I want you guys to come on stage with me and play some Incubus songs. And to me, my first thought was like, how's that going to work?
Mhm.
And he sent us this um, truncated medley of three of our songs, "Wish You Were Here," "Drive," and "Pardon Me." Um, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, I can see how this is working. And then we went and did one day of rehearsal with him. He's like, I'm going to play the drums with you. And I didn't realize that he was as good of a drummer as he is.
Right.
So it was he and Jose playing drums. So we had this like almost like Grateful Dead moment, two drummers with our songs. And it was fun, man. It was exciting. It was the first time we had pyro. There was like fire and explosions in front of us. And then to top it all off, nobody threw anything or booed, which is fantastic. That's how you know it's a success, if nobody throws anything or boos at you.
Right, for sure. And of course, with that being a viral moment from Coachella, I think the great thing about that is you had a new audience that didn't know Incubus,
Mhm.
uh, became fans of Incubus after that performance, that new crowd.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna make sure that they become new fans of Incubus after that for sure. We're gonna campaign on it. Of
Right on.
course, we're hanging out with Brandon Boyd, Incubus at Bridgestone Arena, June 25th. Tickets still available, Ticketmaster.com. You look around and there's a lot of talks about AI technology and whatnot. And in a world where AI is starting to write songs and resurrect voices of dead artists, what is your honest take on that? Because I mean, I sometimes I'll scroll through and I'm like, Frank Sinatra's out here doing gin and juice. This is interesting. Is it a terrifying threat to originality, or is it just maybe a new
Um,
tool in the creative arsenal for this?
I'm still on the fence about it, to be honest. I've seen all of the movies. I watched Terminator enough times where my first thought is like, what are we doing?
Yep.
Did you guys see the movie? Like they've made this movie like countless times. What are we doing? It starts innocently enough, like, oh look, Frank Sinatra's doing gin and juice, and then all of a sudden Skynet becomes sentient and we're all screwed, right?
Right.
Um, I but I'm old enough to know that you shouldn't get histrionic about something until there's something to worry about. But yeah, I mean, in my heart of hearts, I would, if AI is here to stay, which it probably is, I would much rather it work on like clean universal energy sources, or maybe like healthcare for everybody, like something a little bit more productive. But I saw some country western songs that it wrote recently through, I don't know which AI, if it was Chat GPT or Grok, I'm not sure what it was, but they were actually really good. And it
Mhm.
was kind of unnerving, to be honest, because I for so long, there's been this sort of specter of AI, and like it's coming for everybody's jobs. And the thought for me was, it's not coming for music. And then it's like the first thing that it's coming for is music. So we'll see. I don't know.
It'll
Maybe.
definitely be an interesting thing for sure. I know that we don't have much time left, so we're gonna wrap it up here shortly. One thing that and I was scrolling through, and you look on your guys' YouTube channel. Drive might be one of the most recognizable alt rock songs ever. But I'm curious, is there maybe a deep cut in the Incubus catalog that you personally wish more people paid attention to?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. We've written a lot of songs, um, and I think we've written like 150 songs at this point. And so, where it's amazing that Drive has broken through and is recognizable to so many people, and I wouldn't change that. It would be cool if some of the other tracks got a little bit more airtime. God, where would I even begin? I would say if people wanted to do more of a deep dive and apply this thought experiment for themselves, I would jump into our record called A Crow Left of the Murder, which came out after Morning View. There are a
Mhm.
lot of deep cuts on that record, which I think are really, really clever and really interesting. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Go check that record out.
Go check that record out, and make sure you also go check out Incubus when they come to Bridgestone Arena coming up here a couple weeks from now. It's going to be June 25th. Ticketmaster.com. You can still buy tickets. You can also win your tickets coming up here later this morning at 8:10. Last question, and we'll wrap things up. We're halfway through 2025. What does the rest of the year look like for Incubus other than this tour that you're getting on?
We're sitting on a finished new album that's produced by Brendan O'Brien, and we're just going to be planning its release. We're trying to be smart and patient and calculating about the way that we put this new record out. It's a very different world now in any number of ways, but the internet has changed the way that everybody does everything and hears everything and sees everything. So we want to make sure that we give this new record as good of a chance as it can get to as many ears and eyes as possible. But the new record's called Something in the Water, and it'll be coming out in the near term.
That's what we like to hear as Incubus fans. New music on the way. Be looking out for that. And of course, make sure you're following Incubus on all social media platforms. Brandon, let me tell you, it's again an honor and a privilege to sit here and talk with you on the show today. Looking forward to that show coming up here in Nashville on June 25th. And we'll see you there, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day.